Welcome to Classic Advice. My name is Scarlett, your host. My goal with this podcast is to share my life experiences and advice with the purpose to inspire us and challenge us to become better versions of ourselves. Each and every episode will be dedicated to that. Have you ever tried something for the first time thinking it was going to be so easy and then later quit because you got discouraged as it was just a lot harder than you originally thought it was going to be? Yeah, I've done that more times than I'd like to admit, really. I like to start things, and then sometimes I realize, oh man, this is a lot more work, or this is a lot harder than I thought, and I don't have the persistence or the consistency to just keep pushing. And that's something that I'm trying to work on myself. And so I thought that we could talk about that this week. And when I was back in elementary school, so grade 6, I had the opportunity to be in a band. And I love music. My parents tried putting me in piano lessons, but I really didn't like it. It was too hard for me. And I begged them to let me quit, so they let me quit. But then come grade 6, I was older, and my best friend at the time, she was playing flute, so I chose the flute. And I really worked hard at that. I really, really, really worked hard at flute. And the band was quite small and the school was small. So it wasn't like we were going to these big competitions or anything. It was really just for fun, which made it really, it took the pressure off. And I remember we had homework and we were supposed to practice, I think it was 2 hours a week is what it was, and we had to get our parents to sign off on the fact that we actually did do the practice and we did the 2 hours a week. And I was very religious with that. I took it very seriously. I was like, okay, I'm going to be practicing. And so what my dad suggested was just practice a half an hour every day, and then you do that 4 days and you're done. But 9 times out of 10, I'd be having so much fun in the moment, I'd get my 2 hours done and all in one go. And I would do that again. Like I was way above and beyond my 2 hours a week because once I started doing it, it was easier to keep going. And I practiced my little, I practiced. And you know what? I got fairly good at it. I couldn't play much by ear. I mean, I could try to figure it out, but you put a sheet of music in front of me and you betcha I could figure it out and play. And I don't have my flute anymore, but when I was in school, I rented. It just so happened that we went down to the States one time. We went to this antique shop, and in the back of the antique shop, this is when I was like in high school, way past band years, and went into the back of this antique shop, and there was sitting in a shelf, kind of stuffed in the back, a flute, totally tarnished up, not that great looking, for $20. And I was like, Dad, please, can I get it? Like, there's only a couple keys broken. Like, if it's too much to fix, I'll put it up on the wall for display. I'll clean it up and put it up on the wall. And he's like, whatever. So we got it, and I took it in for it to get fixed. I think it was $170 for me to fix, which was quite expensive for me at the time. I mean, it was definitely worth it because I asked him how much that flute would be new, and he said, oh, this is a symphony flute. This brand new is worth about $1,500. I was blown away. I was like, what? So that's kind of like a little side tangent of my little flute. But yeah, I don't have it anymore. I ended up selling it a couple of years ago because it was just sitting around, and I was like, well, somebody might as well get some use out of this. So, but that practicing you know that saying, practice makes perfect, and it is so incredibly true. I practiced and I practiced some more, and I eventually got really good at it. But when I first picked it up, I was terrible. It was hard for me to even get any sound to come out. So flute comes in three pieces. There's the head piece where you blow into, and then there's the middle section where a bunch of keys are, and then there's a little end section. And we would just sit there in class with our hand over the end of this mouthpiece and hold it under our lips and just practicing trying to get any sort of sound out of it. But eventually, after a few hours of practice, I got it. Just like blowing into a bottle and getting some sound to come out of the bottle, kind of the same idea. But for a little kid, it's something that you have to work at. It's something that you have to practice. Now, fast forward a few years, and I got good at the flute, and I've always wanted to play the guitar, and I asked my dad if he would put me in guitar lessons. He's like, well, no, I don't really want to do that, because we tried putting you in piano, and you quit. Now, in all fairness to him, he was, I'm actually, looking back, I'm glad that he said that, because when somebody says you can't do that, it almost gives me the drive to be like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I saved up. I got myself a cheap guitar. I bought a little guitar book to teach myself guitar, and I sat on the floor in the living room for hours on end, and I taught myself how to play the guitar, just like a normal six-string acoustic guitar. And it wasn't something that when you pick it up, you just get it off the get-go, which I know seems really obvious when you say it. But whatever it is that maybe you pick something up for the first time, the very first hide, for example, that I ever made, a little rabbit hide, was terrible. But over time, doing it over and over again, you get a little bit better at it. And I think sometimes we get stuck in thinking that, even you say podcasting, for example, you listen to a podcaster, then you just say, hey, I want to try this, and you give it a go, and then you realize how, there is a lot of work to be involved, but it does take practice to stop saying, to stop going on your tangents, to, like my little tangent about the flute that I bought in the antique shop. It takes practice to get better, and I think we need to recognize that fact. We're not going to be really awesome or great at something right from the get-go. I bought my guitar, I think I was 16, I was in grade 10. When I graduated from high school, that's 3 years of practicing and practicing and practicing. I went off to college. I got some mentorship for some people that played guitar there. And in the second semester of school, I led a band in college. Me playing my acoustic guitar, and there was some other people that played their instruments, drums, piano, there's a singer, and whatnot. But I'm not going to go straight there. I'm not going to get straight to, the band leader or whatever you want to call that term right off the hop. I'm not going to be awesome at flute. I'm not going to be awesome at podcasting. I'm not going to be awesome at all these different things right off the get-go. And I guess the lesson that I'd like us to take from all of this is that saying, practice makes perfect, really is true. And it seems so obvious, but sometimes I think it helps to hear it again. And if you don't quit when you want to, if you just keep practicing, because maybe somebody says, oh, you're not very good at that, why are you doing it? It's discouraging. Or you try to make a hide, or you try to pick up a guitar, or pick up a flute, or play the piano, or pick up quilting or sewing, or a multitude of hobbies, woodworking, welding. There's so much. When you first pick something up, of course you're not going to be great at it. And I know we all know that, but it does good to remind ourselves. I was practicing shooting my rifle, and I was discouraged. This past week, I was discouraged because I wasn't hitting the mark. Well, how many times have I actually picked it up and shot it? Not a whole lot of times. I only recently just picked up this hobby, so of course I'm not going to be great at it. My husband, Roy, is he's so good at it. But how many years has he been doing it? I need to remind myself of that too, that, well, no, I shouldn't be discouraged that I'm not quite there yet. I mean, look at Robin Hood, when him shooting and hitting the bullseye, then shooting again, and he slices his arrow in two. I bet you when he first picked up that bow, he wasn't very good. We all got to start somewhere. And I guess I'd like to ask you, is there something that you've always wanted to do or learn, and maybe you quit a little too soon? Did you try picking up a guitar years ago? Is there a hobby that you tried and you really did want to be good at it and you really did want to do it, but you quit after a little while because it was too hard, or you got frustrated because you weren't as good at it as you wanted to be right off the hop? That leads us into the challenge of the week. My challenge for you guys this week is to go practice. Go practice the thing that you really want to do. And if you are terrible at it, then you can be reminded that Scarlett was terrible at her first hide. She didn't hit where she wanted to hit last week with her rifle. I still go on my little tangents with my podcast. I still say the odd We're not all perfect, but practice, and you will get better. And I'm going to go practice with my bow, because I have that as a hobby as well. And practice with my rifle until I do hit the mark exactly where I want to. And part B of my challenge, as you guys all know, to quote my dear buddy JJ down in Maine, is to please pause. Take a deep breath when you don't hit the mark. And love yourself. Love yourself enough to keep practicing and to keep going even when it's hard. And to be aware of your ripple. We all have a ripple in this world. Let's make it a positive one. Alrighty, well, I am lifting up my glass. I have a lovely cup of hot chocolate tonight. Very delicious. It's quite hot. But here's to you. Here's to you, my friends, for every step that you take to become a better you and making it count. Stay classic, you guys, and by that I mean stay awesome, stay unique, stay excellent, stay amazing, stay you. All right. Thank you so very much for listening all the way to the very end. Aw, you guys are the best. You're the best. I would love to hear from you. My website is classicchronicles.ca. I will put a link in the show notes there for you if you want to head on over there. I have some behind the scenes photos, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom, that's where you can write me an email. And as always, I would love to hear from you. I always love hearing from my listeners, and I always have time for you. So you guys take care, and we will catch you next week. All right. Bye.